Perfect. Well, welcome back to Andertons TV, everybody. And unless you've been living under some sort of Instagram rock for the last 2 years, you will already know that my special guest today is Mia Smith, otherwise known as Mimi Guitar. And welcome to Andertons. Thanks for coming down today. Your Instagram journey and YouTube, your sort of social media journey as a guitarist started not that long ago, right? Maybe 18 months, 2 years ago?
Oh yeah, I think it's like a year and a half, something like that.
Year and a half. And you've gone from 0 subscribers to what, in total? It's got to be 1 million plus now or something, hasn't it, across everything?
Oh god. Subscribers, like YouTube, I think it's like 600k. And then Instagram, it's like 200k at the minute.
Wow. I mean, that's nuts. Took us like 12 years to get to that in Andertons. So let's talk about, I'm interested in what made you want to be a guitar player in the first place. We can talk about the kind of the journey, some of your experiences at music college, what it's been like living in London. And then, anyone that follows you on Instagram will have seen you had a pretty amazing time in LA earlier this year. So, but let's start with, and we'll talk about gear and all that kind of stuff. So let's start with, how does someone, how old are you now?
19.
19. How does how does someone born after the year 2000 from Lincoln decide that they want to be a guitar player, particularly given that I know your influences are in, blues,
right?
The sort of, quite an old school blues kind of guitar scene. So how does that happen?
Well, I actually started off, I was taking piano lessons at school, and that's where I kind of learned the basics of like music theory and learning to read music and stuff. And I remember I was sat in my sister's spare bedroom, because I lived there at the time, and I just came across this video of Jimi Hendrix on YouTube playing Voodoo Child live. I'm not sure of the venue, but he was playing it live, and I literally decided in that moment that is what I want to do with my life. Really? Yeah, and I mean, I don't remember I don't think I even listened to any rock music before that, so it was kind of a strange.
Yeah, so how old are you when you see this Hendrix video?
13.
13. So, are you at that point? You're just a pretty typical 13-year-old girl, presumably listening to pop music and stuff like that. And
I loved like Ariana Grande, like.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just clicked.
And you see a Hendrix video on YouTube. Thank God for YouTube, right? Because like, how else are you going to find out about stuff like that these days? And you'd never even considered playing the guitar before? You didn't have a guitar hero?
Actually, yeah, I picked up an acoustic guitar, but that's because I wanted to sing and I wanted to accompany myself. And then I found out that like I wasn't a great singer. But I liked the guitar, but it was never like this is literally what I want to do, until I saw Hendrix.
Right. That's nuts. And then, so where does the journey go from there? Do you just grab your old acoustic and start trying to learn Hey Joe and Purple Haze and all that kind of stuff?
So, I mean, I picked up a Squier Bullet Strat from my local shop, music shop obviously, and a Fender Mustang 1 amp. Yep. That was my little rig.
It's a good little rig.
It was great at the time, and I had that for quite a while, and then I just kind of learned, all these classic songs. I remember playing Don't Stop Believin' so many times. And obviously like Voodoo Child. And I actually learnt the Star Spangled Banner because, it's just, you can make that as difficult as you want. You can either play like the simple melody, or you can take it like further like Hendrix did or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I got a little band together as well at school with a couple of my friends, and that's where I made them play Stevie Ray Vaughan over and over and over again. But not like loads of Stevie Ray Vaughan songs, just one. Pride and Joy. Yeah. Just every day. I can't imagine how sick they got of it.
And what was that, a little 3-piece or something?
Yeah, just like a drummer, a singer, and she played the keys as well. Like we tried to get a little bass going on the keys.
Yeah.
We couldn't really find a good bass player that wanted to play that kind of music. I mean, we were like 15 at the time, so not many people wanted to play Stevie Ray Vaughan, to be fair. But
fair enough. And was that so in terms of players that you were really into? What what did that kind of Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of open? What sort of doors did that open? Where were you listening to?
And then I got into like Pink Floyd, and I loved David Gilmour's stuff. I listened to like Dark Side of the Moon all the time. I love Dire Straits. I know Sultans of Swing is quite it's like a main guitar piece, isn't it? Right. So we played that a lot as well, and like I was trying to nail that end bit of the solo. That part.
Some challenging stuff, right? And are you getting lessons at this time, or are you just trying to work it all out for yourself?
Actually, I took lessons for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
They were quite good. I think they kind of steered me in the right direction. I might have got a bit lost if I didn't have a teacher. And then I quit after 2 years just because I wanted to do it my own way kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I never stopped playing. I just stopped taking lessons, you know.
So, I mean, I think what it's such a great example of... I think the first thing that every guitar player should do as soon as they get a guitar and an amplifier is join a band. It doesn't matter at what level you go in. Find a bunch of friends that are all at a similar point in the journey and just start playing, because that's where I think that's where you get better, fastest, but also it's where the most joy, I think, as a player comes along.
Yeah, I think maybe I might have quit if I didn't join a band, because I don't know, it keeps things fresh and exciting, and no one kind of really starts just to sit in their bedroom and play. Yeah. We all kind of have that vision.
So what was the... you obviously decided to go and study music at college. Was there a point at which you started to go, I wonder if I can see myself making a living out of this, or at the time was it still very much just about you following something that you were enjoying doing?
Yeah, well, I was like completely obsessed with music all through school, and I was so obsessed that it kind of became the only thing I could do. Like anytime I went into other lessons or whatever, it was like I didn't feel like I could do anything particularly well in other stuff, so I just completely focused on music. And obviously when it came to time to either go to college or whatever, I was just like, music, that's what I want to do. Yeah.
Was that so? Did you have a sixth form college at your school, or a local college where you could go and do? I mean, what was it, like a performance style of qualification, or
so
lots of theory?
I went to a college outside of my school, so it wasn't joined to it. I've got like an extended diploma in music performance and music production, because I really like producers and stuff as well, and like music, audio engineering and stuff is kind of, like, I would never want that to be like my main part, like audio engineering, but like production and stuff, like it really inspires me, and I like learning about it and doing it. So yeah.
So what was so I'm trying to think now. So you were obviously still living at home, making little videos in I guess your bedroom, right?
Yeah.
What was the inspiration to do that? I mean, it's quite you'll know, as well as anybody that creates content on social media, there's lots of lovely supportive people, and there's lots of people that want to say something horrible about what you're doing. So what was it that made you want to start making videos about your guitar playing journey?
Well, the thing is, so I just did a live stream of me playing my guitar. I was expecting like 5 people to join. This was on like a Reddit thing.
Right.
It was like a new feature. I'd never seen it before. So I was like, live streams, I'll play my guitar. It ended up like 30,000 people joined. I was sat there, I was in my pajamas, my bed head, and people were like, sort your hair out. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I wasn't expecting this.
That's nuts.
I know. And then...
What were you playing?
I was playing through, I just found like blues tracks on YouTube, and I was like, right, we're going to jam. Tracks? Yeah. Wow. It was insane, and I was at college at the time, so that was where I was in my life. It was like a year ago, year and a half, and I just directed people over to my Instagram. So then I kind of had like a few fans or followers, whatever you call them, that they were like, why don't you post a video or something? So I did, and then it just like exploded, and I was like, what? Like, it kind of happened by accident. I never had like the intention to be like social media famous, and it never really appealed to me. I kind of fell into it.
I think that's probably where some of the interest has come from, is because it was a very genuine journey. It was literally just, here I am sitting on the edge of my bed recording stuff probably just on a phone or something like that,
Yeah.
and just, you know, and here's where I am, and you know, I think it was quite relatable. I think, you know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on YouTube and stuff where you see someone playing and they've probably practiced it 1,000 times and they've taken the best take and it's like lunatic level and it's beautifully lit and all that kind of stuff. And you're sort of going, it's just not relatable for anyone else on a journey trying to learn to play the guitar.
I mean, that's why, like, even though I've been kind of going for like over a year now, and I've kind of kept I've upgraded my audio stuff, like my gear and everything, but I've tried to keep like the camera setup the same, and just so it's like kind of just down to earth, like real and relatable, because studio stuff is really cool, like the way people use background lights and everything, but I feel like that's just not me. Like, I just like things to be just real, I guess.
So at what point then did you feel like moving to London was going to be an important step as in your sort of guitar playing journey?
I was kind of like, I was at a point where I was living in Lincoln, which is my hometown at the time.
Which is a beautiful city, by the way. I mean, it's like, and quite a big city. So it's not like it's, you know, one of these stories of living in the sort of back and beyond of nowhere.
No, I've come to appreciate Lincoln a bit more since I moved out, you know. I try to go back home like once a month, and every time it gets a little bit nicer, you know, and London gets a little bit less nice.
But you moved to London?
Yeah, so I moved to London because I felt like I was progressing, like on social media, like getting followers and stuff, but I wasn't progressing in my life at home, do you know what I mean? Like, I was kind of just not playing any bands, I was just practicing in my room. And I kind of came out to London to meet some people who were doing similar stuff to me, and I feel like it's taken a while, but I have met some people. And I was a bit naive when I made that move. Like, I kind of just thought that things would just fall into place.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I imagine there'll be a lot of people watching this might be on a similar, you know, might be perhaps in an earlier stage of their journey and thinking like, it doesn't matter what country you live in, you know, I've got to move to London, or I've got to move to LA, or I've got to move to whatever the big, you know, hub of music is in the country that you live in. But I can imagine, you know, it must have been a frightening thing, you know, big change, and as you rightly said, you know, the scene wasn't quite as accessible maybe as you thought it might have been.
No, I've made a couple of friends who are like my age, and we like work on songs and stuff. We send each other tracks and all that kind of stuff. But I had this picture in my mind that I would kind of be able to go to a blues club and just like jam and fit in and stuff. But you know, the blues target audience is just it's not me. Let's put it that way. It's kind of older men, and it's hard for me to fit in there because I always feel a bit vulnerable, or just like I don't really fit in. Also getting to the clubs as well, like at night, like I don't like traveling in London at night, but you know, so I've kind of found it easier to just stick to like the people that I've met and like kind of working on tracks together rather than going out and jamming.
How do you know, I think it's always, whenever I kind of interview women that are trying to make forge a career in guitar playing, there's always a certain sense that part of the scene, the sort of the odds are slightly stacked against them, in the sense of, as you rightly say, you know, I can imagine, you know, it being quite an intimidating, unwelcoming kind of scene for someone, you know, your age to turn up at a blues club, and then of course everyone in there's, you know, my age or older or whatever, and you know, there's, yeah, I can imagine that. But so, do you think on that side of things, social media has helped you find places that are more accessible and more welcoming and less intimidating?
Totally. Like, social media is kind of what allowed me to get out to LA as well, and like that's where I met loads of really cool people. Like, I'd say Sean, have you seen his YouTube? He's been so helpful. Like, he's just been, I know when I've hosted stuff with him from my time out there, like a lot of my followers didn't really trust him,
right?
But he's been really good, and He's always there if you want some advice.
What's his surname again? Sean?
Daniel.
That's right, Sean. Because there's a always, whenever someone says Sean and I think of YouTube guitar players, it's either him or there's another cool guy called Sean. Yeah, no, I met him a couple of times at NAMM shows as well. He always seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, super nice.
So we'll get to LA shortly. But so the London thing, you're still living in London. I hope you do find some clubs and stuff where you do feel like it's a bit more of a supportive vibe, because I always think it's like, music, it shouldn't be a competition. It should be, accessible and diverse and inclusive and tolerant and all that kind of stuff. But hey, humanity is often guilty of not being any of those things.
But no one's particularly they're not malicious, they're not out to get me, but it was kind of just go on stage, play, and then sit down.
Right.
And I don't know. No one seemed to be talking to each other. It was just kind of it was kind of an odd vibe. I actually went with this guy who just messaged me and was like, "This is going on at the club." My first time going to one, and I mean, we talked to each other, but he was also an older guy, which is fine. But I don't know. I feel like it'd be nice to have some friends that are my age,
Well, maybe there's something, maybe that's something you could try and start in London. Just find a little venue that wants to encourage. There must be loads of people in a similar boat to you that are interested in maybe an old school style of music, whatever it might be. But blues is a good one, and they've grown up loving all these artists that are all now 100 years old or whatever, but still want to play that kind of music. But yeah, maybe there's a if you're a venue watching this in London, South London would help, right? But maybe contact Mia and maybe you could put something together for a different age group of audience. But anyway,
hit me up.
So
slide into my DMs.
I will never forget the day when John Mayer did that to us, and I got this message from. I'd never even heard the term "slide into my DMs," but one of our marketing team just went, "You'll never guess who's just slid into our DMs." I don't even know what that means, but anyway, I digress. So LA, the city that for the last 30 odd years or so has hosted the NAMM show, and it's the iconic place of millions of amazing music, tons of amazing music come out there. So that was your first time going to the NAMM show, was it, in 2022?
Yeah.
Were you invited out by someone, or did you just think, I'm just going to go? Or
so the thing is, it's kind of a weird story, I guess. It started with pedal porn, and I actually, one of my friends who I met in London just gave me their Tex and Twang pedal, and I made a video with it just saying, "Yo, my friend just gave me this pedal, check it out, it sounds like Stevie Ray Vaughan, if you use it when you play it." And that video did insanely well, totally unexpectedly as well. There was no real professional effort put into it. It was literally just mic'd from my phone. It wasn't mic'd at all, it was just my phone. And obviously they were like, "Let us know if you ever need anything and stuff," because that's it's a brand, usually if you want advertising you pay them or whatever. But so yeah, they were like, "Let us know if you need anything." And then a week later I was like, I kind of want to go to the NAMM show. So then I messaged them, I was like, "Do you know anything about it? Do you know, because you have to get a pass to get in, right? It's not just open." So I was like, "Do you know any way I could kind of get in?" And they were like, "Yeah, let's sort something out." So we went through a few phases. We were like, "Oh, we could get you on this booth or the reverb booth or something." But it ended up, they were just like, "We're going to sponsor you to go and represent pedal porn, so you don't have to play on any particular booth if you don't want to." I thought that was so cool, because it relieves an element of pressure, and it keeps it fun.
Yeah.
You can do what you want there. You can go and play wherever you want. You can network, but obviously the videos kind of were sponsored by pedal porn in a way. So it kind of elevated their brand and helped them out, while I also got to go out to LA. So
the first time you've been to LA?
Yeah.
We didn't go this year just because I think it was a weird time of year for the NAMM show to be on. But I watched all the footage, I see you out there and loads of other people out there, and I was a little bit I was missing it a bit. But so tell us, okay, you must have been. Is it weird the attention that you get as a guitar player now, in the sense of going, you know, who'd have thought 18 months ago that you know, players like Sean or Tim Pierce or all the other people, you know, would have just gone, yeah, come and collaborate on something. Is it just like mind blown?
It is, because let's put it this way. When I was at school and I played electric guitar, I was considered a bit of a weirdo, a bit of a loser. It was never something cool or attractive or anything. But now, like overnight, it was something that made me cool and likable. So it was really weird for me to kind of go from being like this strange girl who liked Stevie Ray Vaughan and Hendrix to like being something that's actually liked and loved about me, I guess. It's very strange. And like when I was sat watching Tim Pierce in my room, I never thought he'd ever want anything to do with me. Let's put it that way. I never thought he'd want to play guitar with me, or I never thought I'd meet him. And just everyone there, like Rick Beato and like Sean Daniel, and like, it was just insane. But at the same time, like, I kind of took them off that pedestal before I went, so, because if you keep them up there, you can't really connect with them on that level, right? They're just regular people at the end of the day.
That's mad. Well, how did so when you met Tim, and Tim, I think, is we were saying before, you know, that there's quite a few, you know, probably 50 to 100 people now who've become fairly well known for being on YouTube, and they're all phenomenally talented musicians in their own right, but you know, not many of them have had, you know, big industry success, as opposed to perhaps they found something that they do very well on YouTube. But Tim and Rick, to a certain, perhaps in a slightly different way, Rick as a producer, Tim as a player, that they are the real deal industry people. You know, I mean, Tim's CV as a guitar player is ridiculous. So what did he? And I said, I've walked past him and gone, hey, you know, but I've never really had the chance to spend any time with him, which I'd love to try and change that at some point. But what does a guitar player like Tim, what is he able to tell you in the time that you spent with him that you really felt you could take away and it helped you grow as a player?
One of the main things that I've actually been thinking about since I came back is he talked about dynamics and volume a lot, and what kind of separates a pro from maybe someone who's just doing it for a hobby or whatever. And if I just...
Yeah, do it.
So if you just did like the first part of a phrase, like, if you do the next part, yeah. It's kind of, if you change up the dynamics, it adds another level to your playing that like instantly can change it. Like, you don't have to learn a new scale, you don't have to change your picking technique. Literally just going quieter when you mean it and louder when you want to can really elevate it. And that's what Tim pointed out to me quite a lot.
I think that's the best. You know, I think if you look at all the real gods of guitar, they all have a recognizable sound and a tone that comes from their fingers, not from their gear.
Yeah.
And it's all that, you know. I do think as well, it's killer advice, because like you say, you haven't got to learn new chords, new scales, new techniques. It's just a conscious effort, I think, to bring expression into your playing. And that's, I always kind of think, if you took the best, most exciting book ever written, the most gripping page-turning book, and you read it all in a monotone fashion like this, where every word was said at the same speed and at the same volume, it would be the worst, most boring book ever.
Right.
And I just think music is the same. You know, you're telling a story with what you're playing, and it's you build all of the sort of the anticipation and whatever through a sense of...
It's the same with phrasing and stuff. Like, you want to say it like a sentence rather than just... blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's like a straight letters together rather than words.
Yeah. And I would also agree with you as well when Tim said the sort of, what separates perhaps someone that's at that next level from the level below. It is that, that those guys will just play the same thing that you're playing, the same notes at the same speed in the same order, and they'll just sound better. It's like, and that's that level of just like, it's just another level, isn't it?
I was thinking about this. Tim told me when I was there, like, it's in the video we did together, the kind of mentoring session. He said, you're a guitar player, you got to go for it. And I was watching a video by Dan Huff. He was also a session player in like the 80s and 90s, really successful. And he was saying like, it's in the attitude. It's not the notes, it's literally just your attitude when you play it. And it's important in the studio as well because he said it's like a sterile environment, right? There's no crowd cheering you on. There's no real like energy like that there. So it's important that you like focus on your attitude when you're playing it. Because like, in the studio it's harder to do that, or in Tim's studio, there was quite an energy there. I had Tim Pierce stood behind me, so I was like...
Yeah, nerve-wracking. Yeah. I can't... I think it might have been in an Eric Gale's video where he was talking about, you've got to know what the playing has got to become second nature in terms of what are the notes you're going to play that are going to be the correct notes for that solo or phrase or song or whatever. So that I don't think he called it attitude, but it was like, everything then becomes about feeling,
right,
rather than what notes am I going to play, because the notes are second nature. So there is an element of you've got to practice, you've got to in his opinion it was really important you understood the theory, you needed to make it second nature that you'd know what notes were going to work, so that all of your conscious decision making is around the dynamics and the attitude, or whatever words you want to call it. But amazing. Are you gonna so who else you met? So you met up with Tim, you got some time to spend at his studio. His studio looks wicked as well. Have you ever seen that many amps and pedals? And
no, I haven't. So like obviously he's got all his stuff kind of in like a circle, I guess, and you go in and then you've got the computer in front of you, and like all his video stuff is in front, and then the audio stuff is all around, like the amps. And then there's the rest of the room behind the camera, and there's like 50 guitars or more just all against the wall, and it's like, what? Yeah. And then like on the room just outside, he's got like just shelves and shelves of pedals, and it's like, the thing I like about Tim though, it's like they're not just like a hobby, or it's like his tools, like his work tools, and I just think that's so cool. Yeah,
I mean, I said I've watched quite a few Tim Pierce videos, and again he always comes across as just he is the real deal, isn't he? He's just like all right, so you met Tim. Did you say you got to hang out with Rick, or was that just at like a social gathering?
Just at like the hangout after NAMM. There's a bit of like a YouTuber thing. Have you been to one? Yeah.
It's a surreal world of literally going, oh my god, everybody on here is mega famous on YouTube. It's crazy, but that's good fun. So who else did you get to hang out with in LA?
Hanging out, I mean, there wasn't a lot of time to do much of that. Like I kind of just, the first few days were all NAMM, and when I was at NAMM I was walking around, because it's my first NAMM, I was just checking everything out, and then I played at the Bad Cat booth for quite a while. I didn't even know them before I went, and then it just kind of became this thing, especially on my video, and we really connected, like the AR.
Did you meet John?
Yeah.
John, he's a lovely guy.
Yeah,
lovely guy.
He is. And the amps were just incredible. Like I was like,
actually, so come on, let's do. So that is, I mean, I've done stuff at NAMM where you get there and they're like, play like that, and then the next thing you've got people all around you and just like, oh no, it's the worst thing ever, because they're not, a lot of that NAMM thing is like, right, come on then, show us what you've got, and he's just thinking, oh no, what am I going to do? But how was that for you? Because you look pretty cool on that Bad Cat video, so how did that go down?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the first booth I actually played on, and it was the most successful one as well, which is kind of crazy. So thing about NAMM is when you pick up a guitar, you don't know how playable it is before you pick it up. So you pick it up, you start playing. This isn't what happened at the Bad Cat booth, but on a lot of other booths, I would start playing this guitar and I was like, oh, actually, like these strings are like 11s. And like, oh, this neck's really wide, and I'm like struggling to maneuver, and then like a crowd would start coming and I'd be like, oh, no. And then I'd just try and put it down. A lot of the time they don't want you to put it down though. They'll be like, oh, try this, oh, just keep playing. And it's like, okay. And but no, at the Bad Cat one, like they just, you know, they gave me this Strat and they were like, try this one, this amp. And I just have my Fender Blues Junior at home, so when I'd play through like their amps, it was like, I don't know, I loved it. Like I've only experienced Fender amps really, and it was just kind of new for me to try these Bad Cat amps, and I really, really liked them, and I tried to make that clear to them as well. I think we connected really well, like we just seemed to get on, and sometimes you just have that instant connection with people, right? And then like the guys at Pedal Pong, we just had that. And it's worked out really well since. So I was just so happy to have done that.
You were talking about, we'll get onto gear in a minute, because I think I'm sort of intrigued as to, you know, how obviously we're all basically massive into gear, as you would expect here.
Right.
But always interested to sort of see what you're into and what you've got and what you're currently using. But just before we finish on the LA thing, you were talking about going back. So you're back in London now, but you're talking about going back to LA sort of as soon as possible. Is that potentially to live and work out there, or just to
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to live there, but I think that's going to take a while, because you've got to get the visa and stuff. Obviously I'm a British citizen, not a US, and then before I actually live there, I want to learn to drive as well. I need to get the basics of being a human down first. I've gone and done all this stuff, but I still don't even know how to drive.
But that to a certain degree, I just kind of think, you know, you're 19 years old, you're one of the most recognizable sort of, you know, YouTubers now for playing guitar. The NAMM thing's gone crazy. You've got brands trying to endorse you now, and you're literally going, you only moved out of home like less than a year ago and you can't drive yet. Doesn't it all just feel like, it's like, it's just a crazy...
It's like a whirlwind that I just kind of got sucked into, and but I'm really loving like every minute since I got back from NAMM, and I'm just kind of answering all these emails and connecting with people. I'm just like, this is so cool, like, and it just pushes you to get better, you know. It feels like a job to me now, but not in a bad way, like...
What is the, and this is part of moving to LA, but is there a sort of a conscious aspiration to make being a YouTuber like so if I look at Tim Pierce is clearly first and foremost a session guitar player who has a YouTube channel. There are loads and loads of YouTubers who are first and foremost a YouTuber who play, you know, guitar, gig or sessions, whatever, but it's almost like it's been the other way around. So is there a conscious sort of sense on your side that you'd like to feel like you could nail down, you know, making a living out of guitar, and the YouTube thing being a like a secondary thing, or what's your...
I'd say, because the YouTube thing was never like, at the start it was never my intention to like actually even start doing YouTube. I just kind of posted them for the hell of it. But then when it started actually doing well and I was really enjoying it, like I started doing kind of vlogs and gear stuff. But I feel like rather than me trying to be a guitar YouTuber, it's just rather me trying to work on myself as a guitarist and kind of bring in my YouTube followers or subscribers on that journey with me. Like I feel like a lot of guitar YouTubers are older generally, and they're sharing their experiences or advice, whereas I feel like I'm exploring that for the first time, and I'm sharing that with people. And for whatever reason, you know,
that's probably a good shout as to why it's more relatable. Like you say, you're not sort of going, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, so here's some advice. You're sort of going, I'm currently shopping for the t-shirt, you know, come with me type thing, you know.
And I haven't seen that many people do that, I guess. Like because I'm at a level where I can play kind of whatever I want, and I'm kind of progressing and working on that all the time. But at the same time, like, even though I've been playing for 6 years, I'm also, like, in terms of gear, like, I'm trying new things all the time. And it's like, I feel like that's kind of more of an exploring side of my YouTube.
Let's talk about gear, right? Because when I said before you came down, you know, I was like, you're going to bring the guitar or a pedal with you or anything like, you're like, no, I'm going to borrow whatever you've got. And it's like, okay, fine. So here we are in, I mean, you walked into you've had a look around the shop. Obviously, there's a lot more guitars in there than in here, but there's some kind of cool stuff in here. What are you what are you familiar with? What do you sort of gravitate towards? What's your, what's your setup at home?
So my setup at home is a Blues Junior in terms of an amp, and then I've got a TS9, which that was like my staple pedal for a very long time, like pretty much the predominant part of my YouTube videos. I'm just using a tube screamer, and then I've got like a delay and stuff like that. But kind of gear's a bit of a money game, and when I moved out to London, I did not have money. Let's put it that way.
Yes, I'm sure a lot of people living in London can relate to that.
But, you know, since I got out there, I kind of built myself up a little bit, and you know, I've been buying myself gear, and also like the custom guitar that Dyna Guitars made for me, things like that. And one of my friends who I met out in London gave me a Strat. Like, it's kind of like just networking and, you know, finding your way through the industry in terms of, and people will just help you out with that kind of stuff.
It helps if you've got 600,000 YouTube followers,
right.
You know. Yes, you're likely to get sent the odd free bit of gear, I'm sure. Well,
exactly, but like that's what I'm saying. Like, if like my life just changed. Like before, I could never afford any of the stuff that I can play now and that I have access to.
What is it about the? So did you go from that little Fender Mustang to the Blues Junior, or were there some amps in between?
No, just straight to that.
Straight to that.
Yeah.
So have you always gone for like a clean sounding amplifier and then drive from a pedal, or are you still kind of, because the Bad Cat thing is definitely a sort of a hotter, sort of more internal gain than something like a Blues Junior would have.
See, the thing is, like, I'm really into 80s stuff right now. Like the kind of hot and then chorus lead vibes. I'm totally in love with it since I watched Top Gun. And I mean, I've always loved the 80s, but Top Gun's like got me back into it. I'm just like, why am I playing blues, man?
Well, you say that. I mean,
I'm just kidding when I say that.
No,
but
I mean, we have this conversation about the 80s. Pete and I are, you know, born in the 70s, so kind of I think you have that. I think most people will go that there's a point in your teenage years that whatever music you're listening to then stays with you as some sort of, you know, that, and I kind of, you know, I remember, I mean, in terms of blues stuff, I still think Eric Clapton's Journeyman album and those, the couple of albums just before that, but Journeyman especially, and that's all about, you know, it's very 80s. It's, you know, it's big productions, it's chorus on all the guitar sounds, you know, it's like, it's not, you know, it's not B.B. King or... It's
right,
not even
and I
really...
love B.B. King.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I used to listen to him a lot. I feel like I kind of moved chronologically with it. Like, when I started playing guitar, like, obviously Hendrix I started, but then I worked backwards a little bit. Like, I listened to B.B. King and I listened to Albert King and all these people. I kind of got my foundations a little bit, but then like I went into Pink Floyd and people like that, and then I went to the 80s, and I feel like I kind of maybe stopped at the 80s, I guess, because grunge isn't really my thing.
Yeah.
I'm not really into 90s too much, and then I also kind of have this affinity and love for like the Beach Boys, for example. Obviously that's going back, but and like production, so like modern stuff like Tame Impala, like that's just Kevin Parker who makes all the music, and obviously he's a producer. So there's a part of me that loves like guitar and guitar culture, I guess, which would be cultivated by YouTube and stuff. But then I also love production and like people like Brian Wilson and Kevin Parker, and so
I always feel like I feel like the 80s was the last decade where it was okay to spend 18 months making an album. you know, and the production was lunatic level there. So although the gear has moved on a lot in the last 40 years, I just think the time and the insane
it's also probably the last time you'd ever want to play like a 2-minute guitar solo as well.
Yeah, I mean, yes, probably. I think, you know, we always look for we always think who's carrying the flame now for guitar players, and you know, you can look at your Joe Bonamassas and your John Mayers and stuff, but they're all in their 40s now. So you're sort of going, who's the 20 something who's you know, carrying the torch for that. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of there's lots of young people who are technically outrageously proficient on the guitar, but none of it seems to be very mainstream, whereas in the 80s I think it was all
right. Like, it seems like it doesn't really translate to songs a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I think that's just the modern times, I guess. Like, social media has kind of taken over the world, right? And you'll see these amazing videos of people playing, and that's especially with TikTok, that is the music industry at this point. Like, it's not just being at the top of the charts anymore. And even if you are a great player, a lot of the time that's not going to make the top of the charts, because simple is kind of what works.
Yeah.
And this is why I admire studio players so much, like Tim Pierce. I always have. I love their kind of philosophy and just serving the music, and sometimes that means an epic guitar solo, and sometimes that means like literally.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's a good take, actually, that one on all the most successful what do you call it, like wingman, sidekick type guitar, you know, so then not the main singer-songwriter, but the guitar player typically in that band. The successful ones are the ones that just play they understand what their part is to play, and it's not always to be the one in the spotlight shredding the crazy solo. Sometimes, like you say, it is a thank you very much, that's all we needed, Mr. Pierce. Here's your $500 or whatever, you know, like boom, and you're like, yep, thank you very much. I get it, I completely get it. And you know, I don't know who my favourite is of those. I always think Steve Lukather had probably, you know,
he's just the master.
He's like a whole
right
crazy catalogue of session stuff as well as band stuff, and again, another guy who could do everything. But hey, look, we were talking about gear, so how do you, just out of interest with the Little Blues Junior, how do you get that to be quiet enough to do your kind of home stuff? Because I always think, I've got a Blues Junior, and I always kind of feel like unless I turn it up a bit, I never quite get it to sound how I want it to sound. Are you using attenuation, or have you just got neighbours that are accommodating neighbours, or are you just using it at low volume? So
what I do is the master is quite low, but then I kind of get an edge of breakup with the volume. Mm-hmm. I spend a lot of time just adjusting it very slightly to a point where it's not really that loud. Mm-hmm. Like, it's listenable. Yeah. And it's not like whispery tones. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I know that if you touch that master volume just even slightly, it will just go from like.
That's all that series, instantly. All those Fender Hot Rod Deluxes and the Blues Juniors, they're literally, the master volume is the most sensitive. I don't even know how it works. It's like micro of a millimetre, like, whoa, too loud.
You literally want to get a pair of tweezers and just be like. Pretty
much that. And then, so maybe the Bad Cat thing will go somewhere, and you like that kind of, I don't know what it is, like almost like a hot-rodded Vox, hot-rodded Fender kind of vibe. Right. Pedals wise, are you going to go on some sort of mad, crazy pedal journey now and have 500 pedals, or are you going to? Oh yeah. Yeah, it's going to be pedal board the size of a door. What is on the shopping list then, pedals wise? What do you need?
Well, I just got a chorus pedal, so I'm really into the 80s at the minute, so I'm really enjoying that. I guess next, I still need to get a few of the basics down. Like, I want to get myself a reverb and a would you say compression pedal or compressor? Compressor. Or either. It's all the same, isn't it? But yeah. Like, I've just worked with like compression in like Logic and stuff, but I was about to say, do you use any of the plugins to kind of give you a flavour as to like what effects you might want to have? What plugins are you using? Just the stock Logic ones.
Right.
So some of it's digital, and then I'll have like my analog, like Tube Screamer or Overdrive, basically. And then I'll just add a reverb and a bit of compression in Logic.
And guitar wise, you got Telly, got your Fender Telly.
I got
a Kiesel,
Kiesel,
sort of super strat type thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like HSS.
Yeah, and then what was the guitar that you said the custom shop, the custom builder have made you recently?
The brand Dyna guitars.
Is that a British brand?
No, they're from Canada.
Right.
And I think they're kind of just starting out, and we kind of connected on Instagram, and they offered to make me a guitar, and I was like, what? And it came, and it's like incredible. Like, I'm playing that a lot lately. I've just come to get it set up, so it's not featured in my videos lately, but and then I've got 2 Strats, did I say? I've got it's a Japanese 90 Strat from the 90s, it's just like a standard, and then I've got a 70s Strat, both Fender, and then I've just got my Telly.
So you've got a reasonable amount of kit, right? So what is the...
Never enough.
Never enough, yeah, absolutely. What's that? The optimum number of guitars to own is however many you have now plus 1.
Right.
That's the formula. So what's the future? I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about LA and stuff, but you know, if you could have a crystal ball and see yourself, 2, 3, 5 years, whatever down the line, what do you think it'll look like? What do you hope it'll look like?
In terms of gear?
No, just life.
Life.
Yeah, massive question.
That's the thing, it's so unpredictable. Like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have seen myself here, that's for sure. But I was seeing myself out in LA. I've been told to go to Nashville quite a lot as well. Like, there's nothing particularly pulling me to Nashville at the minute. LA, and I want to be doing... Right now, my heart is in studio stuff. There's nothing really pulling me to the stage at the minute, but the thing about music is, like, you can change it up any time you want, really. Like, I could be a studio cat for like 10 years and then go on a tour, like, you know what I mean? It just kind of, just got to adapt with the times and see what comes and goes. And like I was saying, like, the scene's changed. Like, I always, when Tim's telling me stuff and he's giving me guidance, I listen to him out of respect and stuff. And so when he tells me it's changed, it's like, it's up to me to kind of adapt to that. And your YouTube and your Instagram is kind of like your online portfolio. And you do get given work through that, and I'm just like, I'm going with it. And then if I move out to LA, I'll do what I did in London, which is just connect with people. And obviously Tim is just, he's been a giant help in that already, and I don't even live there, so it's...
Oh, well, honestly, it's been kind of inspiring to see the journey. I kind of feel like, it's... You put yourself out there into that YouTube world, almost like, here I go on my journey. I'm not going to be the greatest guitar player ever, but in some of these videos, I'm sure you took a there was loads of supportive comments, and I'm sure you had your fair share of trolling for what everybody else. So well done for just sort of pushing through and feeling like you were just going to ignore it and just get on with it. And it's and you're reaping the rewards now, right? So I hope you do. I hope you do. Find success in playing guitar and end up living the dream and playing and living where you want to live. But thank you very much for coming in today, sharing your bit of experience with you so far. I'm sure if you want to know a bit more about Mia, you can find her. I'll put links to her social channels. Although again, she's bigger than Andertons, so you probably already know she is. So thank you very much for coming in.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thank you everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe. Our million subscriber competition is up in the corner there. So yes, when we get to 1 million subscribers, we'll pick a name out of a hat, and one of you will win that very expensive original Klon pedal up there. So, but yeah, thanks a lot, Mia, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.